So welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this lovely day. It's like the opposite of, either for Michigan, either you have to trek through snow to get to something, or you have to agree to go to something when the sun is shining. So thank you all for coming and spending your Tuesday evening with us here. My name's Elizabeth King. I'm the director of the Center for Russian, East European, Eurasian Studies. I'm also an associate professor of health behavior and health equity and global public health over at the School of Public Health. I wanted, before we start diving into today's event, I also wanted to give you a little snapshot of some of our upcoming events. Thanks. So tomorrow, this is just a little taste of we have Gluklya with us for a few days here at University of Michigan. So for tomorrow, for our CREES noon lecture, she will be presenting artist talk and workshop on threading the needle, vestiges of colonialism and femininity. And we will also have the exhibit opening tomorrow as well, followed by a small reception. But if you can't make it tomorrow, you may visit Weiser Hall for the exhibition from starting tomorrow through May 2nd over at the International Institute on the 5th floor gallery. The next CREES Noon lecture later this month will be joined by Dr. Kevin Bartig from Michigan State University for his noon lecture on Prokofiev's Alexander Nevsky and its afterlives. And then in April, we are joined by Agnieszka Mrozik, who is a current visiting fellow at the Center for Copernicus Polish Studies and an associate professor of Institute of Literary Research of the Polish Academy of Sciences for her talk, Women's Forgotten Revolution, Communism and the Struggle for Emancipation in Post-War Poland. So for those of you who aren't already on the CREES listserv and you would like to join it, I believe that's in addition to the various sign-in sheets when you entered, but we would be more than happy for all of you to also attend our noon lecture and, of course, to come check out the exhibit either tomorrow or through the end of this semester. I also want to thank our co-sponsors for today's event, the Department of Slavic Languages and Literatures, the Penny Stamp School of Art and Design, the Institute for Research on Women and Gender, and the University of Michigan Museum of Art. I also want to thank Diane Beal, who's an independent curator and specialist of nonconformist art, who had the idea many years ago to bring Gluklya to CREES. And so this is a very long-awaited event. Some of you probably weren't even yet studying at the University of Michigan when this idea came to be and was canceled due to the restrictions around the COVID-19 pandemic. But we are very happy to see this. And thank you, Diane, who's also, a proud graduate of the University of Michigan with a Reese major here. So very exciting. Thank you. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce today's event. We have the distinct pleasure of having here with us Natalia Pershina-Yakimanskaya, also known as Gluklya, who's considered a pioneer of Russian performance art. She was born in Leningrad, and today she lives and works in Amsterdam. After graduating from the Mukhina Academy of Art and Design in Leningrad, she co-founded the Factory of Found Clothes from 1995 to 2012, and is a founding member of the Что делать group from 2002 to present. Through her artistic activism, Gluklya redefines what it means to be a, quote, art worker, one who engages with pressing political and social issues through intimate collaboration. Her film, which we'll get to see in just a second, Gulmira's Fairy Tales, is the collaborative result of the stories she gathered from female garment workers during her visits to Kyrgyzstan in 2021 to 2022, which was part of an artistic research project sponsored by the Garage Museum of Contemporary Art in Moscow, focused on post-Soviet colonialism. Following the screening, I will join Gluklya on stage with IRINA ARISTARKHOVA for a discussion. Dr. Aristachova is a professor of the Penny W. Stamp School of Art and Design and the Digital Studies Institute and a CREES faculty associate. Her ongoing research and teaching encompasses comparative feminist theory, digital and technoscience studies, and contemporary aesthetics. She's co-editor of Catalyst, Feminism, Theory, Technoscience, and is currently working on a co-authored monograph of the legacy of Sub Rosa, a feminist art collective. So we hope after the film you'll also stay for a lively discussion, followed by Q&A from the audience, but we'll go over that, the protocol for that. So without further ado, please welcome Gluklya to say a few words before we show the film.
Thank you so much for amazing introduction. And I'm very happy and honored to be here among amazing fighters and for justice and dear comrades from Ukraine and Russia and Asia. A few words about film. I don't want to speak long because we will speak after. It is a video, actually more video than film, the part of ongoing research on post-Soviet colonialism, which is still influencing the people's life. And I see my mission to bring the voice of the women who are hidden, who are invisible, who are working for very low money, and the labor that they are doing are not prestigious, not something that receiving awards or whatever. It's just a simple workers, garment workers who are sewing our clothes, and that is just one of the efforts to give them a voice. And I hope that you will enjoy the film, and I'm very much expecting the questions from you. Thank you.
А вот какую сказку расскажу я вам, детки. Меня зовут Рахат. Я родилась на Рыне. Мой отец работал ветеринарным врачом. Да он и сейчас работает. А мама домохозяйка. И 5 детей. Мое детство прошло довольно хорошо. Но 90-е годы, как и все, мы голодали. Был дефицит товаров. Но если были деньги, нечего было купить. Моя мама сильно заболела после 5-го ребенка. У нее ноги отнялись. И она шила нам огромного синего зайца. Мы с ним игрались, зашивали рамки, постоянно перевязывали. А иногда бывало, что мы отрывали ему голову. А мама нас учила пришивать голову. И при этом приговаривала, что мы должны беречь этого зайца и просить у него, потому что он поможет нам стать счастливыми и богатыми. Но он действительно нам помогал. Когда отец приходил к нам домой пьяным, мы все выбегали из дому и игрались в школьном дворе. Мы его перекидывали друг на друга, катались с горки. И даже его заставляли играть в резинку. Ну, иногда у нас не было талонов на еду. Но у отца постоянно в кармане был талон на выпивку. Мы с сестрой в школу ходили по очереди, потому что у нас была всего лишь одна пара тапок. 2 дня она ходила, и 2 дня я. И вот когда я закончила школу, 17 лет, меня украли замуж. Это мои родители с родителями моего бывшего мужа, они просто договорились, так как я была воспитана очень строго, я не могла перечить своим родителям и осталась. но прожила недолго. 18 лет я родила и ушла из этого дома. А из своих вещей я взяла синего зайца и голубой халат с черными кармашками. Я ушла из этого дома не из физического насилия, а от психологического давления. Родственники бывшего моего мужа, они оскорбляли мою семью. Они говорили мне, что я из бедной семьи, что мой отец пьющий, что он пьет одеколон, закусывая дырявыми носками. А про маму говорили, что она умеет только шить эти черные карманы. Да, она шила эти черные карманы, чтобы спрятать эти дырки. Но что из этого, что она шила? Мой муж никогда не зарабатывал. Я вообще изначально не хотела выходить замуж. Это мама меня заставила. И я осталась. И родила дочку. Я очень много плакала. И просила зайца, чтобы он осуществил мою мечту. Я очень хотела быть милиционером. Но этой мечте не было сбыться, потому что у моих родителей не было денег на обучение. Я однажды плакала. Я очень долго плакала. Я даже не понимала, где я, кто я. И вот так уснула. А во сне ко мне явился синий заяц. И он сказал мне: прищей халату черные карманы, возьми красный тюльпан и выходи на улицу, и твоя жизнь переменится. Я проснулась и подбежала к окну, и вижу, что люди ходят лозунгами. И я одела свой халат, взяла красный тюльпан и вышла на улицу. И тогда я встретила свою любовь. Я встретила милиционера Мурата, который перешел на сторону демонстрантов.
На площади Алато за отставку действующей власти выступили более 30 тысяч человек. После короткой ожесточенной стычки силам правопорядка пришлось спасаться бегством. Сотни человек с обеих сторон получили ранения, но приказа на использование силы солдаты внутренних войск и милиция так и не получили.
Вот и сказки конец. А кто слушал, молодец. Добрых снов вам. Просыпаюсь в 5 утра, пока дети спят, делаю разминку. И пью воду. И начинаю аффирмацию. Благодарю. Начинаю писать все свои цели и мечты. А в 5:30 просыпаются дети. А в 6:30 я их отправляю всех в школу. И с младшеньким садимся за завтрак. Потом быстрая уборка. И с 10 утра начинаю работу за машинкой. И так до 10:30 вечера. Ну, конечно же, с перерывами на обед и ужин. Просыпаюсь в 5 утра, начинаю разминку, пью воду и начинаю аффирмацию. Да, начинаю писать все свои цели и мечты. В 5:30 просыпаются дети. В 6:30 отправляю в школу. И с младшеньким садимся за завтрак. Потом быстрая уборка. И начинаю с 10 работу за машинкой. И вот так до 10:30 вечера. Ну, конечно же, с перерывами на обед и ужин. Просыпаюсь в 5 утра. Делаю разминку. Пью воду. И начинаю аффирмацию. Ну, начинаю писать все свои цели и мечты. А в 5:30 просыпаются дети. А в 6:30 я их отправляю в школу. Потом с младшеньким садимся завтракать. Потом быстрая уборка. И с 10 утра начинаю работать за машинкой. И вот так до 10:30 вечера. Ну, конечно же, с перерывами на обед и ужин. Просыпаюсь в 5 утра, пока дети спят, делаю разминку. Потом пью воду. И начинаю аффирмацию. Писать все свои мечты и цели. А в 5:30 просыпаются дети, а в 6:30 я их отправляю в школу. И с младшеньким садимся за завтрак. Потом быстрая уборка. А с 10 утра я начинаю работать за машинкой. И вот так до 10:30 вечера. Да, с перерывами на ужин и обед. Просыпаюсь в 5 утра. Пока дети спят, а я делаю разминку. Потом пью воду. Потом начинаю аффирмацию. Да, благодарю. Я начинаю писать все свои мечты и цели. Потом в 5:30 просыпаются дети. И в 6:30 я их отправляю в школу. И с младшеньким садимся за завтрак. Потом быстрая уборка. И с 10 утра я начинаю работу за машинкой. И так до 10:30 вечера. С перерывами на ужин и обед. Просыпаюсь в 5 утра. Пока дети спят, я делаю разминку. Потом пью воду. И начинаю аффирмацию. Да. Я начинаю писать все свои мечты и цели. Потом в 5:30 просыпаются дети. И в 6:30 я их отправляю в школу. И с младшеньким садимся за завтрак. Потом быстрая уборка. И с 10 утра я начинаю работу за машинкой. И так до 10:30 вечера. Да, с перерывами на обед и ужин. Ты завариваешь ромашковый чай? Да нет. Я просто ем. А в воскресенье, когда я могу остаться одна в комнате, я завариваю ромашковый чай и ставлю любимое танго моей бабушки. И начинаю танцевать нешитыми изделиями и кусками ткани, которые я по секрету покупаю в дурдое. Танцую. И это меня успокаивает и придает силы на следующую рабочую неделю. Спокойной ночи. Хороших снов. Здравствуйте, мои дорогие! Сегодня я расскажу вам сказку про призрака. Одна женщина очень много работала. Вот она шила, и заснула прямо за машинкой. И во сне она упала и разбила голову. А когда она очнулась, то видит, что вокруг нее призраки. Но у призраков вместо головы швейные машинки. Она испугалась и спросила: а что же мне делать? А куда мне идти? И вдруг все машинки разом заработали. И она будто бы адрес расслышала. А может, и не расслышала? Но она поняла, куда надо идти. Вот она шла и пришла на главную площадь города, где цеха, которые работали при Союзе. Они же на всю СССР шили эти униформы, шинели для солдат. И она села и заснула. И я проснулась от этого пения. И вдруг я вижу, стоит молодая девушка. И она говорит: меня зовут Алия, мне 24 года. Советскую власть только ввели в наше село, и мы его с радостью встретили, потому что она разрешала нам учиться, выходить замуж по любви. И нам так хотелось увидеть этого царя, который освободил всех рабов. Его звали Ленин. Однажды к нам приехал председатель сельсовета и говорит: кто поедет в Москву на съезд сельскохозяйственных работников и работниц? И мы поехали. Мы 3 дня и 3 ночи ждали его. Мы даже по очереди спали, чтобы не упустить его. И вдруг он вышел. Мы все ахнули. Он такой маленький. И мы все думали, как этот маленький мужчина мог разрешить все наши мечты и всех освободить. И он начал говорить. Он говорил, что роль восточных женщин самое главное, что без наших женщин коммунизм не совершится. И мы так плакали. Мы так плакали и были счастливы. Особенно я думала, что я счастливее всех. Наверное, каждый так думал. Но Ленин убежал. Он не смог видеть, как мы плачем. Он даже не закончил свою речь. Этого заряда хватило мне надолго. Мне так хотелось вернуться домой. И мечта поступить в аграрные курсы и стать председателем колхоза. Но муж и родители мужа были против. Что я должна сидеть дома, потому что нужны были рабочие руки и рожать детей. И вот однажды, когда я шла на учебу, вдруг из кустов выбежали и убили меня. Мои родители очень много работали. Они уходили рано утром и возвращались очень поздно домой. А мы ходили в садик. И мне было очень их жалко, потому что они очень много работали, и у них не было времени на нас. Иногда они забывали, что надо нас забрать из садика, и поэтому мы сами приходили домой из садика сами. Но я очень была близка к отцу. Его сейчас нет в живых, но я очень с большим трепетом и теплотой вспоминаю его. Я его очень люблю и скучаю по нему. Потому что он меня любил, он постоянно брал меня с собой на рыбалку. Мы ходили в цирк в раз в год, когда он к нам приезжал в Аил. Он возил меня в центр города. И самый счастливый момент из детства — это тот момент, когда я его увидела с велосипедом на руках. Но это же был дефицит в то время. Какие другие товары. У нас в селе было всего лишь 4 магазина. Это универмаг, продуктовый, вещевой и магазин, где продавали посуду. А в универмаг поступало энное количество велосипеда. Кто успел, тот и покупал. Но самый счастливый момент — это когда отец принес велосипед, и я так долго каталась на нем. Я давала даже своим друзьям покататься и заодно похвастаться. Это меня, знаете, окрыляло. Я очень любила своего отца. И он меня любил, потому что я была самой младшенькой, еще девочка. Но почему-то братьев это не радовало. Они, наоборот, меня постоянно унижали, били, обзывали. И они заставляли делать всю домашнюю работу. Но мне же тогда было лет 5-6. Я не знаю, почему тогда мои родители меня не защитили. Или потому что у них не было времени на это, потому что они же много работали. А сейчас у меня со своими детьми другие отношения. Я стараюсь понять их, вникать в их проблемы, помочь им. Я только сейчас осознаю, что женщина делает двойную работу. И за женщин, и за мужчин. Мои же братья заставляли же меня пасти овец. Да, я каждого барана знала на лицо. Я могла их найти среди 1000 других. Да, это так же, как и можно узнать человека по лицу. Я просто хочу знать, что это? Как вы думаете? Как это называется? Я спрашиваю, как это называется? Вы не знаете, как это называется? Это называется феминизм! Феминизм! Да, феминизм! Это называется феминизм! 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 Феминизм!
Put this to your jacket, and then you'll want to turn it on. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Works.
We'll test the microphones, but hopefully you can hear us. I guess if you, well, it's kind of dumb to ask if you can't hear us, raise your hand, but hopefully good sound. All right, so as I said, well, Irina and I have a few questions to kind of get the conversation started, and then after we kind of get the conversation started, we'll open it up to audience questions as well. And there's 2 microphones on the side of each side of the room. But if you also are unable for any reason to get to one of the microphones, we'll have someone bring you. You can raise your hand and get the question. But we'll start with this kind of little bit discussion going. So we'll kind of trade off asking questions, right? So, Gluklya, thank you for sharing your film. I wondered if you could just start with telling us a little bit about, what drew you to Kyrgyzstan. Why did you pick Kyrgyzstan to do this work? Give us a little bit of the context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I started my research on this post-colonial topic within the context of the laboratory which called 1520. It's Garage Moscow. 1520, it's a number which came from the size of the railway road. So it's different than European and the rest of the world. So they decided to name laboratory like that. And so each of the artists and researchers were invited to select one of the former republic of the Soviet Union. So it was 15 republic, and I chose the Kyrgyzstan because all my life I was busy with the subject of clothes, and it was like more poetic approach from the start. So the clothes I see like as a frontier between individual and society, and the clothes can tell the story. The clothes is protagonist. The clothes can have holes or hairs, or so it was like art object as a clothes. But then I came to the question how this clothes actually was produced. How's the production going with these clothes? So that was my interest, and I chose Kyrgyzstan because from Central Asia, it's a country where the most textile industries is situated, which is producing there is a sweatshops, and they are producing clothes for mostly Russia, a little bit Kazakhstan and China, but mostly like Russian production, which is comparable with Bangladesh, Indonesia. So it's several countries which so-called global south, which who are producing the clothes for European brands.
Yeah.
And my research was started in Indonesia first. I went to a rural area around Jakarta, and I had some stories of textile workers which really struck my attention. I was very amazed about these stories about the double exploitation, so sexual exploitation and the time which underestimated payment and exploitation at the workplace. So, but it was impossible to penetrate this factory in a rural area of Indonesia where I started my research. So when the Moscow garage invited me, I was really happy because then I can realize my dream to speak with garment workers and to start the empirical research in Kyrgyzstan because of also language. The language still Russian, and the access to speak tete-a-tete with the garment workers became realistic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll go next. Maybe follow up on that. It's a durational project, right? You started first with speaking with people, establishing connections, and gathering your material as well. And how have you shown this work in Kyrgyzstan? I imagine that the film, you're showing it here for a very different type of audience. And I wonder what kind of positionality this work would have at the source of where it was made.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question. It was made together with the local community of cultural community and the garment workers. So the method how all this were produced was that first the interview have to be taken, and then based on the interviews the story was made. But garment workers, they don't want to be exposed, and that's why the actress was invited. This amazing actress Gulmira Tursunbaeva, who was studying in Stanislavski school. So it's amazing story how she was became an actress, because when she conceived this dream, being a very little girl, her father said, "No, I'm not. I'm against this. It's a bullshit. You never will become actress." But then she was insisted on realizing this dream. And then he said, "Okay, if you will manage to enter the Moscow prestigious school, acting school, Shuseva, I think, then I'm blessing you. If not, you will do what I would like you to do." So she managed to enter the school and became a great actress. And we met in the theater 705. It's a very progressive, interesting, contemporary theater. And about garment workers, that is still ongoing struggle. And I'm going back to Bishkek to continue that. I got support from Polarities Network, which is consists from England, it's England, China, Russia. It's a new constellation which is working with under the umbrella of Eurasia, so Eurasia transition. So the access to garment workers is a central question of the project, and we are still busy with that because of many reasons it's not easy to organize the way how they can be engaged to the process of cultural production and the knowledge because of these overworking conditions. So, but we have this idea of TV that can be and podcast that can work during the working hours. Then it is also idea of residency, which called Sanatorium for Seamstresses. And the Sanatorium for Seamstresses is my new project in Kyrgyzstan, which starts in 2023. Laboratory in Moscow starts 2022. So in 2023, the new project came, Sanatorium for Seamstresses, and it is about how to unite artists and the garment workers and organize a situation to them where they can collaborate and exchange knowledge, learning and unlearning, and practice together art making and so on. It's very project in transition. Project in transition.
Okay, maybe I'll kind of follow up with that, but also we can turn to some of kind of the themes in the film that you touch on, or your film touches on. And one of them being like this issue of this idea of colonialism, and kind of builds on, right, like your relationship as Russian working in Kyrgyzstan, but also maybe speak to the theme in the film, like, right, we see it where it's kind of like the one part of the film where, this meeting with Lenin, right, meeting with communism, and then after, like, do you want to talk a little bit about that theme?
You mean the
theme of colonialism?
Yes. There is 4 stories, and that you mentioned the Lenin, that's a stories which came from the research in the Moscow archives. And we found amazing documents about this Lenin appearance. It was a big topic about how to engage Central Asia workers and also women included to this communist building. So, and Lenin was like famous for their speeches. So it was, we found a material that he came to speak precisely to these women who made very long way from Central Asia came to Moscow to this party gathering, siest. And somehow it was like in the garden, because like this speech was in between the big other speeches about agrarian questions and in general the questions how coexist with Central Asia, because the process of colonization of Central Asia was very difficult because it was a clash with the Muslim beliefs and absolutely other culture, and people, of course, were resisted, and the collective farming and the female, the gender question was one of the central, because so Lenin was speaking with women, and he was very moved that they started to cry. But then this story, what was paid for establishing the Soviet power was my interest, because a lot of women were dying on the way to new life, and it was a lot of stories when the girl is going to study and all of a sudden the husband or somebody from community stabbing her. So it was a painful process of establishing the new system, which the women paid the price.
And does like the kind of this ideas of colonization and kind of maybe this global discourse on decolonization, does it factor into the work that you're able to do now, or like what you're thinking about with your colleagues in Kyrgyzstan or some of this current projects?
Sorry, what is precisely your...
I was just wondering, like, with that, is it like a continued discussion or kind of tying it back to Irina's question around positionality and your own positionality in this work? And does that something that you continue to grapple with, or that your work continues to grapple with around colonization, decolonization?
My positionality is the positionality of the artist who are trying to understand what is ethical, what is not, and that's a very painful also process, which is comparable with psychoanalysis, when somebody wants to heal the trauma, because it's obviously the trauma for Asia and also for people in Russia who understood what happened, right? But this is a very young project. It's just starting, and we are experiencing the same, which is patient experiencing when he's facing the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in psychoanalysis, it's typical that the patient becoming, for example, angry, or it's possible that he or she is starting the hate or psychoanalytic, and the hate, the pain, the ignorance also, it's all following this process of healing from trauma of colonization. And we're just starting to find the words. We are making mistakes. There is a lot of problems, and the central problem is the feminism. I mean, in this gender discussion.
Right.
Because the philosophy of the colonization is based on that you should, I mean, they have to do everything themselves. That's what I'm often hearing during the project that, and discussion in Amsterdam, for example, like the curators and colleagues, they're saying, you should not like do, you should be very delicate and conscious, because they have to do everything themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's very difficult to stay alienated, because when you are witnessing this violence toward women, who are, again, this repetition that which was in the Soviet time, that the girl is going to university and 8 men is coming from the car and grabbing her and bringing to the village where it is destroying, the rape happening, and her life is destroyed. Then it's very difficult to stay like and wait and like be in this position that they have to do everything themselves. So, but we are constantly in dialogue with the Kyrgyzstan friends, and just yesterday I got a letter that Amirim, with who is also living in Zurich, she wrote me that they have their own feminism, which is not written yet, but they are working on that, she said. And so that's process is going.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to ask?
Well, in a way, I think that you already addressed the question I had on what kind of feminism, right, or what is feminism in the film, and because you said a few words about that, I wonder if we can go to the
should we finish? I was thinking.
the audience.
Okay. Yeah,
The
audience. We already have audience
questions.
questions. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. If you could just, when you come to the microphone, if you could just state your name and affiliation.
1, 2,
it also
3.
provides nice context.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Gluklya. Thank you so much for your nice work. My name is Gulmira Tursunbaeva. I'm a journalist from Kyrgyzstan, currently doing my fellowship in Night Wallace Journalism Fellowship. So I was so touched with your film, and when I was coming to here, I know this actress, and I was thinking about how she's gonna just play this role. It's so hard to play like all of these touches and puzzles, and also she did it amazing. And my question is, you have interviewed a lot of garment workers in our country, in Kyrgyzstan. I have done a lot of reportings about them too, and about their human rights issues and also other stuffs. Do you think empowering garment workers in Kyrgyzstan led somehow to feminism and women dominancy in our country and overall in Central Asia? This is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
You have interviewed them. Can you just find out like something particular? Can you just give examples?
Yes. I think that the work that we did and still doing is very important to put the seed of that in the field, because without starting to talk about that, it's impossible to make a change. But as I said, my colleague, they are working on inventing their own feminism. And although they are in dialogue with European feminists, they are sort of careful to even using this word. That's why we put this word in the center of this video, because it is not, they are not so much pronouncing it. And for many people, feminism in Asia is like, who is feminist? It's a clown. It's a clown because the equality between men and women is a sort of also utopian preposition, which is also here and in Russia, but in Asia is a more in other scale. And because in Asia is also there is a working pattern that women are strong and they can manipulate men. And they think it's a reality which is only can be reached. And if you're thinking differently that there is equality between men and women, which doesn't mean sameness. It doesn't mean sameness. It's really different organisms. And men and women, of course, different, but there is a level of equality that we all believe, right? It's existing reality. But they think it's just something very funny, because if you are a clever woman, you always can manipulate men, that the woman is neck and man is head, so she can manipulate. And that's so powerful, so great, and that's only reality in the relationship. So we talked about that, and I think some understanding started to come. Yes, but it's very difficult, to reflect now, because although I'm working 3 years, it's still very, very, very short time. It's nothing. So I think after 10 years, maybe we can, I can answer you more profoundly about this. Now I don't, yeah.
Are there other audience questions? Could you go to the microphone? Or if not, maybe Liz will go.
So I just want to say again, thank you for the video and for the discussion. My name is Andrew Smith. I guess in terms of connection, I was a Peace Corps Ukraine volunteer from 2017 to 2019. I was kind of curious, just with regard to some of the literature you had about the video beforehand, just talking about sort of the change in social structure from the Soviet period into the post-Soviet period. I was curious, talking about like work hours, sort of regulations, with that going kind of a different direction, but culturally, I was curious whether you've sort of experienced with your discussions or found any presence with the people you were working with. Was there, during that sort of Soviet period, was there a presence of sort of performance art and sort of public art addressing social issues? Is that, I was just curious whether you've sort of found that that's, is there a previous sort of existence of that sort of art? Is this something that's been more new and more of an introduction with the work that you've been doing? Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, did you have a question about working hours as well as performance art?
No, sorry. So I was trying to jumping from one thing
from one to another.
Actually. So more specifically, just in the discussions you had with people, was there sort of a presence that people press or people are aware of there having been that sort of public art, performance art playing a social role in that sort of earlier period, and then sort of resurging now in a way, or has this been more the introduction of that role of public art recently?
Они знали о таком искусстве до того, как вы туда приехали, или как бы для них это тоже было совсем ново, и в Советском Союзе не было такого?
Oh yes, it's a very good issue. Of course, there is not so much knowledge about contemporary art, performance, public art, but they are very, very quickly developing. And I'm collaborating with a Trash Festival, and it's a Bishkek also school named Bishkek Contemporary School of Art. And literally like 2 persons started the school, and already after 1, 2, 3 years, they got a bunch of amazing young artists and researchers, and they, for example, were already in Documenta. Last Documenta, they were invited by Good School educational project. So yeah, it's like starting, and maybe you mean this intervention to the street when actress went to the street, right, as a ghost. It is this very strange thing, yes. So they are not used to it, and that's why it was so amazing to see how it's going, because yeah, some people were ignorant, some were scary, but mostly it's like ignorance, right? Yeah. But this is what we wanted also to show, that mostly it's still ignorance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but next Trash Festival will be in April already, I believe, and I will be with next festival in Bishkek in 2027. Mm-hmm. So please apply there. It's all in their site. Please come to Bishkek. It's a lot of interesting artists, and yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk about, it kind of leads into this one other question that I thought is kind of beyond maybe the film, but just thinking about like the space, right? What is the space like right now for maybe Russian feminist art, but then also it sounds like there's collaboration with people in the, like maybe the diaspora community, Russian diaspora community, but also with your colleagues from Central Asian, European diaspora communities. Like, what does it look like? Could you kind of describe like what's happening with feminist art, and is there collaboration? Yeah.
The
like
space.
I mean, abstractly the space, like not the concrete space, but abstractly the space. Like what's happening in movement? I don't know how you want to describe it. Like, what's some of the current? Like, are there good connections? Like, what does it look like? Right? Kind of, you were involved with this. Initially in Russia, right? You also go to Russia, like kind of wondering, like, what does it look like for feminist art right now in Russia, outside of Russia, in connection with colleagues, whatever, yeah.
No, but the question is about Russia or Russia-Asian connection?
Well, I kind of wanted it to, I originally thought I would ask you more about Russia and like the kind of Russia diaspora, Russia in exile artist community that you're part of, like specifically within feminism and art. But now with your other, as this discussion kind of moved forward, I was thinking like, it's also interesting that you're connected with people from other former Soviet countries, right? Like your colleague in Switzerland from Kyrgyzstan, right? So maybe it's broader than Russia. I don't know. But
no, now our community are all framed because of the war, which started. The Russian feminism is growing. Because, for example, Skochelenko, the young artist who just war started in 2022 in February, and she brought to the
like the grocery stores?
Or grocery stores.
Yeah, the price tag,
yeah. So, and she was in prison until recently. So that's a price what people are paying for being feminist in Russia. So it's dangerous. And now feminism is also going to be even more dangerous because country, of course, need new soldiers, and who is going to produce new soldiers? It's women. So the women should have less rights what to do with their bodies. So they have to be silent, and the feminism is definitely not a subject which is flourishing in the official context. And as always, the more government is pressing, the more opposition is growing. So our society is producing also new feminists, but they have to stay underground. And we're developing like a new language how to keep going and being artists and feminists, but at the same time not be arrested or immediately go to prison. So it's a constant search of new language and how to be careful, but at the same time speaking the truth.
Just to add, can you add a little bit about the formal aspects of making the film? So, the reference to the Good Night TV series and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
People get that context.
Yes. Thank you for this question. The set was constructed around the Soviet program, Good Night Babies. So at the Soviet time, it was this program which starts, I think, 9 o'clock or something.
8:45.
8:45. And it was the woman, Tетя Valia, and the two toys near her, rabbit and pig. And so it was a short story, and after this story, so it is like, oh, now you can go to bed. And yeah, so it's a reference to that, but with another toys and another woman.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it's also something to think about and I know it's like advertising tomorrow's lecture on modern colonialism, of how much we talk about Soviet time as Soviet colonialism or post-Soviet colonialism or Russian colonialism, and that's probably a larger question which I look forward that you potentially
unfold.
tomorrow will address, because some of that common experiences of being in those spaces, and how we talked about like language has become that moment of contention, so much so right now, and differently in different spaces. That is also something to think about within the work itself. Right?
So to continue the conversation tomorrow. Also, if you to see the exhibit, you can also see the blue rabbit at the exhibit live. Right? One of the actors, the blue rabbit, is featured in the exhibit itself. So
if you can come to tomorrow, it would be amazing. Noon lecture, right?
And then also, if you can't make it tomorrow, one, it's recorded, but also, please come to the exhibit, or come to the exhibit. The opening of the exhibit tomorrow the lecture will be followed by the opening of the exhibit and a small reception. So, yeah.
Is it also important to say that the language of the film is, of course, Russian? So this is obvious, maybe, about the colonial legacy, but Russian is the language.
Still, still.
Everybody.
Yeah. And we have a version of the film in Kyrgyzstan language for garment workers.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, but Gulmira, she's speaking Russian, perfect Russian.
Yeah.
And she said, I cannot. She even badly speaking Kyrgyzstan. So for her it was organic to speak in Russian, and I cannot like force her and saying, you know, there is a political correctness and you have to speak Kyrgyzstan, you know, because we are in the colonial discourse, so please speak Kyrgyzstan. But it was impossible because it's her reality. So she's speaking Russian, and it wasn't, yeah. At the same time, exactly, you're right. It's showing the reality, what's going on with this matrix of language.
You have another question? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Robin. I'm an art student here. I just was really struck by the blue rabbit as a motif, and I was wondering if you could speak more on the significance of that and what you intended.
Sorry, I don't hear significance.
Like your intentions behind the blue rabbit as like a motif in the movie.
And the rabbit, yeah.
Заяц.
Thank you so much for your question. The rabbit came from partly from the story of the Zaina with whom I worked, because we founded a platform with this rabbit because I have had a rabbit in my childhood and she had a rabbit in her childhood. So we're talking about this rabbit, and my rabbit was connected with my father, who was in the army in Turkmenistan. And he was being a soldier because in Russia 2 years every young man have to spend in army. And he came with this pink rabbit. And this rabbit was with me, I think, until I was 14 or something. So, and now it is like in a coffin, special coffin, хрустальный гроб.
Crystal box.
Yeah, so it was a friend. And Zaina, the garment worker, also explained the story about her rabbit. So it's somehow blended in this process of digesting the interview, because there is a process between interview and when interview is becoming narrative. And then it's just can be generalizations or fantasy. The blue is associated with a dream. So he's like a dreamy rabbit, which is a friend from a utopian world.
Companion toy.
A companion, yeah. And the rabbit also a symbol of something good. We also have the animation in Soviet childhood. Ну погоди. Ну погоди. There was always a wolf who is running after rabbit. Rabbit is always escaping. And in fairy tales, Russian fairy tales, rabbit is always good. He is the one who is good and kind, and the wolf is bad. He's always eating rabbit.
On this rabbit eating note, I think we are...
Yeah, I think we're reaching time, but I just wanted to make sure, well, if anyone had any questions. Thank you so much.